Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts, sports journalist David Todd, and from SteelersDepot.com, Dave Bryan. Just a couple of Daves, chillin', talking Steelers. Now, here's Dave and Dave.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Dave. He's Dave Bryan of SteelersDepot.com, the place to get your latest and greatest Steelers information. And I'm David Todd. It's Season 9, Episode 6. And Dave, we are 36 hours, 35 hours to be exact, away from the opening of the Steelers exhibition season, preseason season. How you feeling?
Boy, you know, I can't stand myself, and I know that goes for you as well. You can't stand myself, and I can't stand myself right now, and Lord, I just can't wait. Really, always, like I was telling Alex, you know, I follow this stuff all off season, of course, really 365 days a year. I get the great reports from Alex, you know, like it's almost like being there at training camp, but you know, I still haven't seen these guys with my own eyes, and I will finally get to say that I have been able to do that Thursday night against the Eagles. So yeah, this is really a magical time of year for someone like myself.
Yeah, it's interesting, Dave. I know we talk about this every year, and for a lot of people, maybe they'll tune in for a half of the third exhibition game. The third preseason game, I guess, is the term. A lot of people, unfortunately, myself included, I may not be able to get to see this live tomorrow night because I have a meeting that's probably going to run into 7 o'clock, and I'm not going to be in Pittsburgh. But I'll get to see it over the weekend, I'm sure. And some people care about it, some people don't. I'll tell you, there are about 60 guys who are, have spent the past 2 weeks in Latrobe who certainly, care about it because their financial and professional futures are going to be determined by what happens over the course of the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, really. And it's a big deal because, look, as we've talked about from the beginning, you come into camp with the team as talented and as successful as the Steelers have been, and you can ink up 45 to 48, maybe even a couple more than that positions before you get to camp if everybody stays healthy. And so you've got a lot of guys battling for, to be on the 53. You probably got, 15 guys for, 5 to 8 spots. And then, not for nothing, there are not a ton of guys who spend a lot of time on the practice squad or a year on the practice squad and then go on to have big NFL careers. But there's a chance of having an NFL career, and at least you have an NFL career for a season. And you get a better paycheck than you get kind of stocking the shelves at Walmart like Kurt Warner did. So, it's these things matter for these guys. And I know, like I said, it's not everybody's cup of tea. And certainly I know people complain about paying for tickets. Boy, don't complain about paying for my view is don't complain about paying for 2 extra preseason game tickets that might cost you $80 or $100 when you look at the packages that in some of the other sports. If you're an NBA fan or a NHL fan, oh my goodness, do you get soaked on the tickets, the cost of tickets. Football, in the big picture of things, because there are only 10, and I realize only 8 matter games, it's a much more viable thing for most people financially. But yeah, they get started, and we'll get underway. And certainly for us, I think front and center will be how the young quarterbacks play.
Absolutely. What do you? I know you go to a couple of games a year. What does it normally? What does it normally cost a fan? A day at Heinz Field.
Yeah, well, I mean, I went from the age of 8 till the age of 18. I went to every game the Steelers played at home, and when I moved back here, I went to every game the Steelers played at home until last year, really. And last year, opportunity to sit at home and be able to tweet and put my feet up and enjoy it in a slightly different manner was kind of fun. And I'd like to go with my brother and his boys when that opportunity presents itself. But we like to sit up top, and those are the cheapest tickets. And if they're $100 or $80 face value, you get a slight discount to that. So you can figure that out. 10 times $75 is $750 for a season ticket, and then you pay $20 for parking and depending on how many soft drinks or beers you want to drink at somewhere between $7 and $10 a pop, figure it out. And it's so maybe it's $100 or $125 a person. It's not unreasonable. It's not free, but it's not it's not nice. It's a nice dinner out.
I haven't had one of these in a long, long time, but what does an ice cold Bud Light cost you at Heinz Field?
I don't remember exactly, but it's not $6, that's for sure, and I can't remember if it's 10. It's I think it's probably 10. 10's probably a good ballpark number.
Lord have mercy. We used to be able to buy
buy a case and a half, right?
We used to buy warm suitcases off the shelf, a Bush, for less than that, and drive around all night.
Oh gosh,
with it, chasing ambulances. Okay, you talked about young quarterbacks. Mike Tomlin talked to the media on when was it, Tuesday, and obviously, he was asked about the quarterbacks. He said Ben is not going to play. I don't think many jaws dropped when he said that. He was asked about the other three quarterbacks, if they will definitely play, and he says that his intentions are for that to happen. Now, he always gives himself some wiggle room there, but one would think that we're going to see some Landry Jones probably to open things up. I don't know how you and I talked on a recent show about how many snaps we thought he might play during the preseason. I wouldn't think he's going to see much action Thursday night against the Eagles, and then some combination of Joshua Dobbs and Landry Jones. And Alex threw out there last night, went out on the proverbial limb and said he's not going to be too surprised if Landry Jones is the second quarterback into the game. So I went the other way just off of the logical aspect of it. Make the rookie kind of earn it a little bit. But I got to admit, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to see Mason Rudolph come into the game ahead of Joshua Dobbs, but that's where Mike left it. He wouldn't let us know who's going to play when or what when it comes to quarterbacks, and quite honestly, I am, and I told Alex this as well. I'm looking forward to really breaking down, and I will. I'll do it way too much. As I'll go over the top in breaking down every throw that Mason Rudolph and Joshua Dobbs makes in that game Thursday night.
Yeah, I would assume if Landry Jones is going to play, he's going to be the first guy in the game. So, I mean, that you just go according to the depth chart, and the depth chart as of right now, I mean, and it's just this isn't based on performance or anything else. The depth chart is 2, 3, 4. Mason Rudolph's 4 right now. That could change, after this game. But I would think they would just go in order. Landry Jones play the first quarter. Josh Dobbs played the second and into the third, and Mason Rudolph played the third and the rest of the game. And I would assume next week in week 2 that Mason Rudolph will get that opportunity in front of Josh Dobbs in somewhat the same order. That's how I would expect it to go the first 2 weeks.
I would as well, but I think there's a lot of we don't know how much hyperbole it is, but boy, Kevin Colbert had some real positive things. I shouldn't say real positive. That would be hyperbole on my part, but some positive things to say about Mason Rudolph being further along in his development than what they thought he would be at this time. And Coach and Mike Tomlin, basically said the same ahead of that Friday night practice on Sirius XM NFL radio. But and then Tomlin was asked. I thought the Tomlin was asked during the press conference on I'm getting my days mixed up here, to talk a little bit about what he's seen out of Mason Rudolph so far. And, his big thing is, he's looked fine and all like that, but he wants to see him take hits, because obviously they don't do that during, it's a controlled environment during practice. And then he went on to stress ball security. And I want to test your memory. I don't know how much you were on the Twitter machine yesterday, but how much do you remember about the first games that both Landry Jones and Joshua Dobbs played, first preseason games?
So ask again.
What do you remember about the first preseason, the NFL debuts of Landry Jones and Joshua Dobbs?
Not a thing.
Landry, when he played in 2013, already had to follow in Ben and Bruce Gradkowski into the game. So I think he came into the game around in the midway point of the third quarter, right around in there. His first snap, the Steelers were backed up way in their own end, and he took the snap from under center and crashed into Baron Batch and fumbled the ball in the end zone and recovered it for a safety there. Are you kind of recalling it now?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not even sure I saw it live when it happened.
I think, I'm trying to remember what his stats were for that. I mean, it wasn't anything impressive, obviously. I think it was something like 5 of, hold on here. He didn't throw an interception in that game. I don't remember that being the case, but let's see. He was 5 of 9, 48 yards. Boy, I got a good memory when it comes to certain things. Don't tell me my wife would disagree with that. But 5 for 9, 48 yards for a 70.6 passer rating. His long completion in that game was 13 yards. Now, fast rewind back to last year with Joshua Dobbs against who did they open up against? I think it was the Giants as well too. He threw the 2 interceptions there. I think they went like 3 and out or something like that the first 2 series, and then he threw a couple interceptions. He went 8 of 15 for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Against 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions for a 56.9 rating. So the last 2, NFL debuts per se for drafted quarterbacks for the Steelers haven't been obviously very memorable. In fact, they've been kind of forgettable.
Yeah, I mean, look, there will be more scrutiny on Mason Rudolph, and we will remember this. We're more likely to remember this because Landry Jones and Josh Dobbs went a little later in the draft than Mason Rudolph, and whether it was appropriate or not, or whether it's accurate or not, or you say you have a first-round grade on a guy, and there's an expectation. Look, when Josh Dobbs came in last year, I don't think there was much of an expectation that he'd be the number 2 quarterback. When Landry Jones came in, there was no expectation that he'd be the number 2 quarterback. I don't have an expectation that Mason Rudolph will be the number 2 quarterback kind of anytime soon. But there is, and I don't think maybe there was even an expectation that Josh Dobbs or Landry Jones will be the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger. But for many people, they think Mason Rudolph will be the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger. He's got a bigger pedigree, and he's got a little bit more publicity and certainly a higher profile. Well, I don't know if he had a higher profile than Landry Jones in college. Landry Jones had a pretty high profile playing for Oklahoma as well. So for those reasons, it's going to be a little bit bigger story. And every year everything's a bigger story. So we may remember this one, or I may remember it, and the average listener may remember it a little more easily down the road.
And it's going to be easy, as usual, for people to overreact either way. So, caution everybody, just be careful. Good or bad or mediocre, Thursday night. Don't draw any hard conclusions from any of this. We'll break it down the best we can and go from there. Anything else on the quarterback? I mean, I'm genuinely excited to see both those young guys play, and I'll leave it at that.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think it's, if you're a Steeler fan, why not be excited about seeing this kid play for the first time and seeing him throw the ball to James Washington and see if, I would assume, if I have a little bit of a sense of humor and I'm Randy or I'm Mike or whoever's making a play call, the first play he runs, I'm calling a post for James Washington. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I would get him settled into a game quick, wouldn't it? Run some,
throw it to his guy.
Yeah, run some play action, and he was asked. Mason Rudolph was asked about that during the interview yesterday about will he be lobbying to play with James Washington? He said, yeah, he will be, but obviously that's not in his control and all.
First priority, right?
He's just gonna. I thought, for what it's worth, and it's not much. I thought he's handled himself very good in the interview yesterday. You could tell a little bit of nervous excitement with him there, but I mean, I like all the answers that he gave. He's a very look. I think this guy still feels quite a bit slighted too, and I don't know if you watched Rudolph. I think he still feels slighted about where he ended up going in the draft and all.
Boy, if that's what's front of occupying the front of his mind, then
I think it's still there. I mean, look, Lamar. He obviously feels that he should have went ahead of Lamar Jackson, I think, and.
I'm sure he thinks he should have gone ahead of a lot of those guys, but now he's in camp with the Steelers. I wouldn't spend a lot of time worrying about that anymore.
No, I'm not saying about where he actually landed. I'm sure probably in the grand scheme of things, he knows that he's in a potentially very good situation, depending, of course, on what happens with Ben. But just knowing in the back of your head that all these teams didn't have you as their, as one of the top 5 quarterbacks. In the NFL. I mean, look, that Josh Allen kid's going to be interesting to watch him in what, Buffalo, right? I mean,
yep.
To be honest with you, I think I had Rudolph ahead of Josh Allen, and you're talking about that kid went, first round. So, now
he went 10th, didn't he?
What was it? 10th overall? Was that it?
He went early.
Yeah. So, anyway, I think he's got this. I think he's got that chip. I can tell he's still got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Okay, some other people that are not going to play Thursday night, according to Mike Tomlin. Antonio Brown. We'll talk a little bit more about him in a minute here. Tight end Vance McDonald with a foot. The one guy that I didn't want to see miss any time during the preseason with an injury. He's going to miss the first one. Vance McDonald. Outside linebacker T.J. Watt with a hamstring and Bud Dupree with a concussion. So your 2 starting outside linebackers on a depth chart that
of 0
that you're already worried about outside of Watt. You're not going to get to see on the field. I could care. Antonio Brown wasn't going to play in this game anyway, so I don't care about that. And for all practical purposes, Vance McDonald might not have seen much of any action either. So those are your 4 guys that are definitely out along with Ben. We know Ramon Foster's not going to play because of his knee injury. You're probably not going to play Pouncey, right, David?
No, I wouldn't think so.
And this list, a couple of guys missed practice again on Tuesday. Guys like Keon Adams, that's another outside linebacker. Poor Keon Adams is yet to play in a preseason game. And Brian Allen, another, 2, how many of your draft, let's see, you got 2 draft picks from last year, or 3 draft picks from last year, David, that are going to one we know is going to miss the game in Watt, and 2 others in Adams and Brian Allen that might not play in this game as well. So,
both those guys they don't need to miss time. Let's put it that way. They're not high pedigree guys. Yeah, Allen was on the team last year. Adams was IR. So they've been around the organization. So there's some familiarity. But, you miss a couple games here in the preseason when you're going to get a lot of reps. If you miss the first 2 weeks when you get a chance to get a lot of reps, and all of a sudden you're not getting reps, and you might not be getting reps in week 3. So that leaves you week 4, and that's not a lot of time. So those guys, missing a game. For guys on the back, the guys not 48 in ink, those guys missing these first 2 games is a big deal.
Yeah, and look, we want to see more, some stuff out of Keon Adams, special teams related too. It's not just playing outside linebacker, because quite honestly, if we see him on the field early in the season, something's gone wrong. So, you just want to see some of the other things associated with a few of these guys, and special teams being one of them, with Keon Adams, who one would think should be a pretty decent special teams player. So we'll have to see what happens with Keon Adams. In the meantime, it looks like the Steelers are set to go into this game with at least three healthy outside linebackers. And Anthony Chickillo, Ola Adeni, the kid out of Toledo, which I'm looking very forward to watching him play, and Farrington Huguenin.
Yep.
Right.
He's been around. He gets a second crack at things. What'll be interesting to see is if they go with that, whatever we're calling it, the dollar or the 4-7 formation. It'll be interesting to see, who gets those reps, because maybe it won't be the two outside backers who are on the field at the time. Maybe they're going to have to scheme a little differently. I mean, it's, having three outside, going into a game with just three outside linebackers with the scheme the Steelers play is not an ideal situation. So it's, they're going to be doing some things here in this game that are a little bit different because I don't expect Anthony Chickillo to play certainly more than a half. So that means you're down to two. It's not an ideal situation.
Yeah, they've been having rookie undrafted free agent linebacker Matthew Thomas, an inside guy, play some snaps out on the outside. So
yeah, that surprised me, right? It's a lack of bodies,
right? And
if Thomas actually shows just a little versatility, obviously, his stock, if he could be, if he is as good as Keon Adams on the outside, that makes it a very easy decision if you have to, choose between the two of them, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't remember Thomas. It's just that's not in his wheelhouse.
Well, I don't know. We haven't seen it, so who knows if it's in his wheelhouse, right?
Yeah, I don't think it is. I wouldn't think it would be, but we'll see. And it will be interesting to see if they're having to rotate. If you're listening, keep your fingers crossed Keon Adams can go, because I'd much rather see him rotate four guys around instead of having to rotate three guys around and throw Matthew Thomas. I want to see Matthew Thomas play inside linebacker, damn it.
Sure. Yeah, I do too.
I don't want to have to worry about him taking snaps at outside linebacker, something we'd never see, at least not outside of an emergency situation there. So definitely something to look forward to with that position group there. And look, those guys are going to have to, you want to talk about guys logging a lot of snap time Thursday night. A few of these guys are going to do it. And, as you said, Chickillo, how much do you want to put on him? You know what he can do and can't do as far as both defense and special teams. So guys like Adaney, Adams, and Huguenin, those guys are going to have to get a lot of work special teams wise as well too. So going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. And as far as the dollar stuff, look, I mean, I guess if you roll out, your first team defense, which we already know is going to be without two players, and Lord knows who else is going to get sat between now and game time. I just don't think that's something that we're going to see a lot of Thursday night. I think you're going to just see a lot of that, straight up vanilla. See how these guys function in some of the basic stuff, if you will. So, I mean, we'll see for sure. Okay, offensive line, going back to the injuries, I should say. Antonio Brown. There are a lot of people, even in the media. Not that the media ever freaks out and makes a mountain out of a molehill. One in particular guy, I think, wrote on used some internet ink to worry about Antonio Brown and whether or not the Steelers were trying to hide something with his injury. Well, lo and behold, we had a Twitter follower get Dr. Mel some info of where they could find a video of Antonio training with a chiropractor of all people down in Miami, and apparently it was for a hip flexor. So during that video, the doctor, if you will, said that expect Antonio Brown back at Latrobe, this week, and lo and behold, he was. So it still doesn't sound like it's anything serious with Antonio Brown. Mike Tomlin still wouldn't disclose the actual injury, but all he would say is Antonio's not going to play Thursday night. Antonio was out on the side field during the Tuesday practice, and Mike Tomlin's hopeful that he's able to return to practice after the game against the Eagles.
I heard one of the beat writers say they didn't expect him to be back in practice for a week, meaning he's going to miss the next week and the next game as well.
I mean, it wouldn't be a shock, right?
No, just passing it along, information.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if he's able to. Mike would say is that he's kind of hopeful to get back at it after the Eagles game. And look, do you even need Antonio to play in that second preseason game?
You don't need him to play at all. Le'Veon Bell's not going to play at all. Antonio Brown doesn't need to play at all either. He's practiced a bit. Doesn't matter.
I mean, I'd like to see Antonio get some snaps in that tune-up game, just to a series or two, obviously, but nothing, anything more than that. Okay, what other direction do you want to go?
Running backs.
Oh, yeah, and we should see a lot of James Conner and Jalen Samuels in this game. I really, I understand you got to get the other guys some work, Javarian Franklin, and we'll see how they use these two veterans in Stevan Ridley and Fitzgerald Toussaint, but
probably not much in this one, but it'll be so. It is going to be interesting because you just named four guys and for two spots, and it's really three guys for one spot. James Conner's making the team. I mean, there's no question about that. If he's healthy, he's on the team. Le'Veon Bell's on the team, and if the Steelers keep five receivers, maybe they keep four running backs. So there's, it's not out of the question. They're going to keep three for sure. They could keep four. We know Mike Tomlin loves himself some Fitz Toussaint, and he likes him on special teams. So, that maybe that gives him an inside track to be four if they keep four, which means between Ridley, who's a veteran, who did a couple nice things in his brief time with the Steelers last year.
And then look, Mike Tomlin's talked him up pretty good as well too.
Well, I liked what we saw, but if you're thinking about upside and you're thinking about youth, I mean, obviously Samuels has a big edge there, and maybe a little bit of an edge in versatility in where you can line him up. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in this game. He's not playing for his spot yet, but I think the Steelers are probably relatively comfortable with what they have in Stevan Ridley. So, that'll be interesting to watch because Toussaint's probably not competing with those two guys because he's probably not going to be the number 3 running back. He's competing for a special team spot, the 53rd spot on the roster. So to me, the competition is Ridley versus Samuels to be the number 3 back.
Last year during
in terms of evaluating Toussaint.
Yeah, and look, we know Toussaint's probably outside of Le'Veon Bell. Toussaint's probably your best blocking, pass protecting running back in camp right now.
Yeah, Connor's still learning it, and
Samuels
the other two guys aren't going to be asked to do it.
Right, Samuels hadn't done it. I haven't watched much on Javarian Franklin, but he's not even in the picture right now, making a 53. Last year during the preseason, all those backs that they had, first game, Terrell Watson got 10 carries. Niall Davis, remember how there was talk about Niall Davis making the roster? 8 carries for Niall Davis and 6 for Fitzgerald Toussaint in that opener last year against the Giants. So a lot of them boys didn't get carries. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see three of these running backs not get work. Not get carries in the game against the Eagles as well, too. I do want to see Samuels quite a bit, though. I hope they let him play a lot. You obviously start Conner and let him play, 15, 18 snaps. Let him get a little bit of work on special teams. But I want to see a lot of Samuels in this game.
Yeah, again, Connor's probably goes with Landry Jones. Maybe he gets the quarter, 2 series, whatever it is, and then on to the next guys. And I'm guessing maybe we don't see Ridley or Toussaint. Connor goes, like I said, into the second quarter. Then Samuel's your feature guy, and then the rest of the crew in the second half.
Okay, wide tight end. There's probably not going to be, other than seeing Bucky Hodges in a Steelers uniform. I wouldn't expect Jesse James to get too much action. Obviously, Vance McDonald's not going to play. Probably not a lot to get excited about there, except for seeing how much they play Bucky Hodges and seeing what he can do.
Right. You mentioned Pouncey not playing. I wouldn't expect DeCastro to play either.
Yeah, Alex and I talked about that. It wouldn't hurt my feelings for him not to play. I mean, you're not going to have Ramon Foster in there. You're probably not going to have Pouncey in there. You probably want to see both your tackles for a series or two to protect Landry Jones, right? In Alejandro Villanueva and Marcus Gilbert.
Yeah, assuming that shoulder's fine for Villanueva. Yep, I would expect to see a couple snaps from a couple series from both those. Yeah, same thing. First quarter.
All right, and then after that, that's when it's going to be fun to watch some of the offensive line there. You're gonna see Chuks Okafor probably relieve Alejandro at left tackle. It'll then be interesting to see if he's asked to play a little bit of right tackle in that game, something he did a little bit of at Western Michigan. Jake Rogers, a guy that was carried on the practice squad all last year, or off and on the practice squad, he's going to get a lot of work in this game as well too. Matt Filer, we could see him at both guard and tackle in this game, and see how some of these other lesser known guys on the interior wind up playing in here as well too. So it's going to get quickly into the second half here where you're really struggling to type out who the left to right are.
Right. Yeah, look, it's going to be mix and match, and in the second half, the things are going to be all over the place and figure things out. How about on the D line? What are we expecting to see in terms of is Alu going to get a couple snaps to start the game? I mean, how much are Cam and Tuitt going to play? Are they going to get any snaps?
I don't need to see anything out of Cam Hayward, and be honest with you, the way Tuitt had to battle those injuries last year, I don't have to see anything out of him just yet as well. So I hope those two guys sit. If they do play, only make it a series, and then turn it over to some LT Walton and Alu for a little bit, and then start getting some of those other guys. Look, I mean, like it or not, Daniel McCullers, according to Alex, has had a pretty decent camp so far. So, you're going to see him probably early in this game. Some Cawthorn, the kid out of Penn State, going to see him. You're going to see, obviously, the draft pick, Joshua Frazier, in some base situations. And even though he hasn't done a lot, evidently, as far as sticking out, Greg Gilmore, the undrafted free agent out of LSU, who, quite honestly, I thought would have flashed a little bit during camp so far, and he really hasn't stuck out, and he's one of those guys down there at the bottom probably struggling to get some practice reps right now.
Yep. DBs, do Artie and Joe Hayden get out there on the field to start the game, or do you start Cam on one side and I'm guessing maybe Joe Hayden sits and Artie starts?
Yeah, that's a good question. I flip-flopped in a matter of five seconds with Alex last night when talking about it. Because of the miscommunication issues last year, because you have Sean Davis going to free safety and you have Morgan Burnett coming in, I think I want to see that first team defense or at least the secondary part of it get a couple of series against the Eagles. How do you feel about it? I mean, look, it's a preseason.
I do. Let's toss out Cam Hayward, and I wouldn't mind seeing a series or two. Just because of the communication issues they've had, make sure they get out there and get some. You're not going to have them all out there at the same time. I know we talk about injury risk, but I think we saw at the beginning last year, if I remember correctly, these are the things. A couple things I do remember. I do think we saw the first team defense take 2 or 3 series, or maybe a quarter. Maybe that was the same, 2 or 3 series in a quarter. But we saw him play in the first game, and I was a little surprised. I actually expect we'll probably see that again. See most of the guys out there. There are not many guys out. First of all, the DBs, you're not really, watch somebody's going to get hurt on the second play, but you're not really risking injury for those guys. You probably just don't want Cam to have the physical contact. But you can go out there with what would be, so, we know that you don't have the outside linebackers. You can go with your first team defense a couple series, and that's fine.
For what it's worth, and it's not much, here was your starting defense in last year's preseason game against the Giants. Cam Hayward, Javon Hargrave, Stephon Tuitt. It's listed here, Matakevich on the Did he? No, he didn't start on the outs. So they had this flipped wrong. It was oh wow, an official game book wrong. Who would have thought? T.J. Watt and Arthur Moat started on the outside, and Matakevich and Vince Williams on the inside, and your safeties were Jordan Dangerfield and Robert Golden, and your cornerbacks were Cody Sensabaugh and Ross Cockrell. My, how things have changed.
Yeah, right.
What was Mike Mitchell banged up with something that caused him not to miss that game at one of the safety spots? And it seemed, I can't remember if he missed that with an injury or not. But yeah, Golden and Dangerfield got the start at safety, and your two corners, one ended up being gone by the regular season. The other was buried on a depth chart. Ross Cockrell and Cody Sensabaugh. So I don't know. Maybe Mike Tomlin will roll Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt and Javon Hargrave out there with Chicolo and geez, who's going to start opposite Chicolo?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were saying. You got three guys, so I mean, I assumed it would be Huguenin, but
yeah, that's probably a good safe call there. And then, you want to see that I'd like to see that starting secondary go for a couple series.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, something to look forward to. Quadree, your boy Quadree, is going to get the first crack at kickoffs and punt returns.
This is not surprising. He's going to get the first crack. He's going to get the first crack next week and maybe get the first crack in week 3. You decide whether this is an important enough part of the game to keep a player. And again, if you're going to keep 5 wide receivers and 3 running backs, that opens up a spot for Quadree Henderson for a return guy. And right now, we don't really see a 6th receiver. We don't really necessarily see that you need a 4th running back. So because of the de-emphasis on special teams, maybe the tackling's less important, but the return guy's more important, if that's possible.
Have you given more thought to the new kickoff rule and the alignment? And do you think we're going to see? How do you think we're going to see? Because someone tweeted us a question last night about and Alex didn't have the answer to it because they don't really work on it a lot during camp, or when they do, you probably can't see it. Chris Boswell trying to purposefully.
Yes, I look. I don't think the Steelers will be leading the charge in kind of
touchbacks or
unconventional techniques on kickoffs. But somebody's going to start trying this, and certainly teams down 2 touchdowns should always be pooching the ball over the line of scrimmage. I mean, I would. You got so many things to do in camp that you can't spend. They do work on special teams a lot, but I would be spending that time thinking about what I want to do with kick formations. And I'll tell you what, I would have somebody dedicated. I would have one of my assistant coaches, one of the junior staffers. I would have him cut every kickoff in every game of the preseason. Cut the touchbacks out and show me everything everybody did that wasn't kick it to the goal line. Because the teams should try this stuff, and it is a new area that is good. Somebody's going to figure out a way to exploit it, one way or the other, offensively or defensively. And I would think this, the onside kick stuff's going to be interesting now. How that plays, I would assume pooch kicks and little over the top kicks are the ones that might be the most dangerous. And with this new formation, you're down 10 points early in the fourth quarter. Maybe you kick it deep, but maybe you say, you know what? See if we can drop one in at the 25-yard line. It's just a sprint. All we want is the ball to bounce. And once it bounces, we got almost as good a chance as the other guys.
Yeah, I think you. And look, one thing when Mike Tomlin was asked about kickoffs and the new rule, he went, of things that he's looking for. He didn't so much go respond to the question about the rules as much as he did saying what he wants to see out of his own guys is securing the football. So maybe he's expecting some bouncing balls, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Do you think we'll see more kickoff returns this year? Do you think this will? And let me ask you this: wouldn't you kind? I understand because the run up is shorter. Guys don't get the running start, and you can't have as many guys back now. But even so, wouldn't the goal actually be to have less kickoffs? Because if you're worried about the whole concussion thing, to me, and I think DHB in an interview this past week said he thinks you're going to see more kickoff returns. And doesn't that kind of technically go against what the NFL would like to see happen as far as, you see what I'm saying, with player safety and all?
I think part of it is, I think, so the change of the rule was, I think, less designed to make sure there were fewer kickoffs than designed to make sure that there are fewer violent collisions.
Yeah, so, but you're still going to get, you're still going to have people lighting people up.
You're going to have some, sure, of course you're going to have contact, but, you're not having guys run at each other from 30 yards away each direction. Now you got guys running side by side with guys. There's no run up for the guys next to the kicker. They get a 1 yard start. So that slows you down. And the other guys, most of the other guys are just 10 yards in front of you, and they're going to be going the other way. So, yeah, you're going to have some violent collisions, but you're not going to have, the wedge, coming from the 10 and meeting guys at the 35 at full speed. So, that's the goal, was to stop those types of collisions. But, yeah, you're going to have collisions for sure.
Well, okay, now answer my other question. Do you think we'll see more kickoffs?
I would say the same. I would say the same number, because it's going to be just as easy to kick to have touchbacks. That hadn't changed any. So that's going to be the same. So the question is, are teams going to try to get, and I don't want to use the word cute because I don't think it's cute. I think it's strategitic is a better word. Are they going to try to get strategery?
Strategery.
And kick it over the top of the defensive lines. If everybody doesn't know, you got to have eight of your return guys have to be within, I think, 10 yards or 15 yards of the 10-yard window. They're going to be up close. You can't have more than three guys deep, is what the point I'm trying to make. So we'll see if there's what kind of strategy teams employ here in the preseason. I would expect the Steelers to just be mostly bombing it deep, which I would do.
So what do you think? What do you think the average yard per actual return increase will be? I'm gonna write this down. I'm gonna hold you to it.
Okay, across the NFL, I'll say 2.5 yards.
A 2.5 yard return increase. 2.5.
That's probably a bit high. Give me 1.5 across the NFL. Because it's 1,000 kickoffs.
Oh, wow! I was going to take the over, and you just bought the hook for me for free.
Yeah, right. Give you a hook and another hook.
Do I have to play a special half-point parlay card with this?
Hey, you got to put 3 other bets on it.
Yeah. You got some of these damn casinos, Lord, with these cards. The half-point card. What are some of the other ones? Oh Lord, you walk into, you see all these cards. Okay, I'm going to take the over. I think it increases there. But back to the Steelers and how this plays into Quadree. If there's one thing, and Alex and I talked about it last night, if there's one thing that he does well, a special trait of his, it's him being able to reach top speed quickly. Am I correct?
Yeah, look, this guy's a flat out burner. I haven't seen him up at camp, but you watched him at Pitt, and there were a lot of those returns, and even on some of the jet sweeps. As soon as he got to the open field, it's done. Nobody's catching him from behind. And he's elusive, but he does get to top speed fast, and he hits holes fast. He's not. He's not dancing around a lot. He knows what his thing is, and Pitt did a nice job blocking for him at times. It was, he had daylight, and he could run to daylight and be gone. So it'll be, look, I'm looking forward to it. I think camp has broken his way so far. You look at the situation with the receiving core, the fact that, the Martavis Bryant trade obviously, opened things up for him, and the fact that he's going to get opportunities in the return game. It's and there doesn't seem to be anybody else, and Eli Rogers not being back. And again, I point this out every once in a while. despite the fumble in the Chicago game, that a lot of people think Eli Rogers isn't a good punt returner. He's a very solid punt returner, but looks like he's not going to be around for the first half of the season. So, is Cam Sutton that guy? Well, Cam Sutton doesn't have any more experience than Quadree. And we've seen Quadree do it. Mike Tomlin's seen Quadree do it. He probably knows the guy. So there's an inside edge to the fact that he was in the building with the Steelers the past couple of years, just on the other side of the wall. And I'm sure he's got a full report from the Pitt coaching staff on what kind of guy he is. And there were some rumors that Quadree, the reason Quadree, probably should have stayed in school another year. And the reason he didn't is because he wasn't going to class, which, that makes the decision easy for you. If you're not eligible to play, might as well go to the NFL. So we'll see how it all works out for him. But he certainly, I think, landed in a good opportunity. So I am interested to see him. Yes, that's a long answer to that question.
Okay, and now here's part 2 of that. We'll get into a couple of quick meaningless predictions here. Will Quadree Henderson have a punt or kickoff return go longer than, I forget what I asked Alex, 38 or 39 yards Thursday night?
In the preseason or tomorrow night?
Just Thursday night.
I would say, obviously the better bet is no.
Right, and Alex said that the same thing, that the logical would be to take the under. What kind of odds would we need to play? Let's
3 to 1. 3 to 1 would do it. 3 to 1 would do it. I mean, if you made it 30 yards, I think 2 to 1. You get up around 40, it's got to be at least 3 or 4 to 1.
All right, I would like to put 10 units on that 3 to 1. I think he busts one over 38 yards of one of either.
Okay.
Who's the name me 2 offensive stars that we're talking about?
Player of the game. We're going to do the English Premier League man of the match.
Can you say it like that blonde girl that you used to have on your show?
Rebecca Lowe.
Yeah, I used to tune into her interviews just to hear her say that.
Just per man of the match. I cannot, and I'll go with James Washington. How about that? Let's go with James Washington, and James Washington and James Conner, the James brothers.
Okay, I will go with Mason Rudolph. And I really want to go with James Washington as well too, but I'm going to try to go a little bit further down the depth chart here. It's got to be it has to be a skilled position as well. I'll go. Is he going to get any? No, give me. I'll take the easy route out. Give me Rudolph and Washington. All right, defensive side of the ball.
Cam Sutton, just taking one.
Boy, that's a good one, too. I think that's a really good one. Geez, I'm drawing a blank here now. You're stealing all my guys. I'll go Anthony Chickalo. How's that?
All right, fair enough.
All right. Do we have anything else to wrap up on this? I think we talked meaningless enough about a meaningless game.
Yeah, the Hard Knocks. You said it was great.
Oh, I loved it. Greg Williams, their defensive coordinator, is going to be absolutely fantastic. The closing, I'm not going to give it away for you, but even the closing credit scene will have you in stitches. Todd Haley had a disagreement with Hugh Jackson about they evidently have a lot of planned days off for certain guys who have had medical issues in the past. 2 days on, a day off, and Todd Haley doesn't like that. He broke out. I don't want us living in our fears. and Hugh Jackson kind of shut him down, shut down that idea real quick. The speech that Jarvis Landry got up and gave in the wide receiver room was really worth.
Pro Football Talk's headline is Jarvis Landry steals first episode of Hard Knocks with passionate speech.
Yeah, and it's good. They're going to center a lot around him. That backup, that drafted wide receiver of theirs got busted for possession of marijuana. So that they trade away. We didn't even talk about that. They traded away. We
talked about it last episode.
No, did we?
Corey Coleman to Buffalo, yeah.
Oh, we did touch on that. Okay. So gonna be interesting to see how all that shakes out there. But yeah,
By the way, we talked about the Pats receivers the other day. Malcolm Mitchell got released right after we talked about it. And there's a good article in the Boston Globe this morning by Chad Finn talking about that. Check that out if you're. I tweeted it, so if you want to have a look, talking about the other guys and as we discussed, lots of question marks with Edelman out at the receiving core. A lot of guys who've done decent stuff, and I guess Cordarrelle Patterson looks great in camp. And I say, well, that's the story of his career. He's been good when it wasn't important. So just as a follow up on what we were talking about on Monday, there's a little note for you. Andrew Luck back, ready to go.
The thing I want to tag on about Malcolm Mitchell that I thought was the most surprising thing. Look, we had heard that he might be on the outs and all, and injury history and all like there. But I think the most significant thing is that on the actual official NFL transaction sheet, they did not waive him injured. So
yeah. He missed, for those who don't remember, he missed all last year with the knee injury. And for those who don't remember further back, 41 catches his rookie year. He caught 6 balls in that Super Bowl win, the comeback win over Atlanta, 5 in the fourth quarter of that game. He was, in the article, Chad Finn said he was the Patriots' best wide receiver draft pick since 2002. Going back to, what's his name, who played defense, Troy Brown, I think, all the way back in that. That's quite a statement.
I'm sure
how many good receivers the Steelers have drafted in that period of time.
I'm sure you could go back in these podcasts and on my Twitter machine feed and find me being high on Malcolm Mitchell. I really liked him coming out of college. And
where did he go again? Remind me where he went.
It was Georgia, right?
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Remember, he was the one that standing at the 40-yard dash to loosen himself up, did that that kind of leap up
jump up to the roof.
Right, and it makes there's a shot from the Associated or Getty Images or one of them that looks like he's just levitating in midair. But right. But yeah, I really liked him coming out of college, and for him not to get waived injured, that means he passed his physical. I don't know if he's going to get a shot somewhere else or not, but that's a kid that I liked. And here's the thing: you talk about Cordarrelle Patterson. I hate to beat on this kid, but if he's one of your best wide receivers, can you imagine him with all those checks and all those reads that Tom Brady expects you to do, and the preciseness of all that? Can you imagine him being one of the main guys in that offense? I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. It has a stench to it.
Yeah, you could dumb it down. See if you think he's really talented, and he's maybe you want to use him in the return game. You just figure out a way to get him on the field for 10 plays and run a reverse with him, and
right. But they're making this sound like this is going to be a 40 snap a game guy.
Well, not in the article I read this morning. So
okay, all right. Well, that's.
I don't know how. Maybe with Amendola out, but you got Amendola, Hogan, and a cast of characters ahead of him. I'd be, he's going to have to just make the roster. So we'll see from there.
All right. I think we've beat on all this enough. We're not sure if David's going to be back with me on Friday because of his travel plans and all like that. So look forward to either. If David can't sit in, then Alex Kazor will of course be with me to recap the Steelers Thursday night game against the Eagles. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow David Todd on Twitter at David M. Todd. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. I still haven't made it through all those emails that we're getting from people. We certainly do appreciate the feedback on that, the people reaching out to us on Twitter. People said that we should continue to push people getting the Spreaker app. That's SPREAKER. Or listen to the show at Spreaker.com, or listen to the show on the actual posting on SteelersDepot.com. If you like what we do and you want to set up kind of your own kind of membership to the podcast, a lot of people have found that to be the way that they want to do it now. So you can go to SteelersDepot.com, hit that PayPal button up there, and set up, 2, 3, 4, even $500 a month, I think it'll let you do if you want to do that. And send us an email to theterriblepodcast@gmail.com if you set one of those up as well too, because there's no place silly PayPal doesn't allow you to put a note in there. Are we going to go in and split a share of this stock of Elon Musk?
Not me. Not me. That is going to be an interesting story today if you're in the stock market.
All right. Until Friday for one of us.
Yep. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Dave.